Thank you. We are gathered here today. No. Actually, we have come to the end for this year. You've done well, and it is time to cheer. You're as sharp as a tack, and we hope you'll come back. Mini-Med, we hope, won't disappear. Sally forth, for yourself advocate. If unsure, questions initiate. For your health, go take charge. It's a challenge that's large. With your doctors, please participate. Our kind donors we do deeply thank, and our speakers whom you get to rank, and our volunteers too, and the audience, you. The director, well, his limericks stank. Kyle, where are you? Kyle? Kyle? Thank you. Our Kyle Summers, I'd like to acknowledge. USF was his undergrad college. He's a great organizer, this year's class synthesizer. He's being lured to grad school for more knowledge. I am grateful you showed so much zeal. Rate this course, we now strongly appeal. That's enough limerick and Cal Hirsch's dumb shtick. Now Dean Jones, graduation will seal, and I'm deeply honored to present to you Associate Dean Leon Jones for commencement speech.
So good morning, almost afternoon. It's a complete pleasure to be back here again. The energy, you're probably not aware because you're here every Saturday, but it's like you get near this building and it's like the energy you can feel. It's so exciting. So I'm really excited to be back here, the 12th annual mini medical school. And as I said last year, what I find really exciting is how interested you all are in learning. You know, I, along with Dr. Saratan, she's an associate dean as well of wellness, we get to work with 450 plus amazing young people. I get to go home every day realizing that someone is going to take good care of me because we're raising them and educating them. So let me find. So I'm going to start with some quotes. Well, I'm guessing that one of the reasons many of you are here is this. If I'd known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. This is U.B. Blake on reaching the age of 100. One of our basic tenets in medicine is lifelong learning. Obviously, medicine changes very quickly, and keeping up with it can be difficult at times. But what is it about learning? The excitement of learning separates youth from old age. As long as you're learning, you're not old. Hear, hear, right? Your dedication here to learning is a model that we strive every day to instill in our physicians. And it gives me great pleasure to go back after having been here last year saying, guess where I was this past weekend, and how excited people were about learning. So last year, I warmed up with a joke. I'm going to warm you up with a joke. Again, be kind. Remember, I'm a physician and not a comedian. So, an old man decided his wife was getting hard of hearing. So he called her doctor to make an appointment to have her hearing checked. The doctor, being true to times, could only see her in 5 weeks. And meanwhile, there's a simple test that he asked the husband to do that would give him some idea about the dimension of the problem. Here's what you do. Start about 40 feet away from her and speak in a normal conversational tone and see if she hears you. If not, go to 30 feet, then 20 feet, until you get so on until you get a response. So that evening, she's in the kitchen cooking dinner, and he's in the living room, and he realizes, about 40 feet. Let's see what happens. Honey, what's for supper? No response. So he moves to the other end of the room, now about 30 feet away from her. Honey, what's for supper? No response. So he moves into the dining room, 20 feet away. Again, honey, what's for supper? Again, no response. Onto the kitchen door, 10 feet away. Honey, what's for supper? He gets really scared because there's no response. So he walks up right behind her and says, honey, what's for supper? And she says, God damn it, for the 5th time, it's chicken. So obviously the message there is who you think may be the patient isn't always the patient. So what I wanted to spend just a little bit of time with you this morning, I want to do two things. One is I first want to cover just a little bit about what real medical school looks like to sort of hopefully shore up your belief that we're turning out good doctors. And I'm going to finish again this year with some tidbits. So this has been some of our concern about the new generation. I'm not sure everyone knows what tweeting is, but tweeting is a maximum of 140 characters. So when people are talking about tweeting, they're talking about 140 characters. Remember the days, at least when I was in school, a 10-page paper was a short paper? 140 characters now is sort of the gold standard. So the good news is this is not the way medical school works. We actually have an accreditation, national accreditation that accredits medical schools in the United States and Canada. We just went through ours about a month ago and did really well. All of us participated. It's really intense in getting grading. But they have several standards that guarantee that medical schools are teaching people, their students, how to take good care of people like you and me. So these are just a handful of things. One is that the curriculum has to educate people and give them clinical experience in primary care, so they know about what every body part needs. They specifically mention geriatrics is educational opportunities have to happen in geriatrics in medical school. Communication skills are another thing that are quite important. You're 57 years old, and I'd like to get that down a bit. What we're not looking for in medical school are people that are like this. I mean, you need to have realistic expectations, which is one of the things I know you all talked about here. The other thing that LCME is striving for is that we produce medically ethical physicians with human values, that they understand what the goals are and that it's a collaboration and that it's a team. Gone are the days where the doctor tells you what to do and you just do it, with no input from what your goals are, what you need, what you want. Fountain of youth, I can't get the child-proof cap off. We also don't want to train physicians that have medication as their only tool to help you. I got to see Dr. Saratan's outstanding talk, and very nice segue for me, that we're training people that a lot of what can be done does not include medications. As a matter of fact, medications alone frequently don't work without all the other things that have to go into that. So what is this? This is the horrible schedule of the 4 years of medical school, just to give you an idea of what they do. Whenever I see this, my overriding thought is, I'm so glad I'm done with this and don't have to do it again. But as you can see, things are packed. They have courses throughout the first year, throughout the second year. There's clinical mixed in. The third year, they have 6 8-week rotations. Fourth year, they have to apply for residency. There's more rotations that they have to do in the specialty they're going into. But here at Davis, we expect people to have a breadth of experience. So we require, if you're going into neurosurgery, you can only actually do 3 months of neurosurgery out of your entire 4th year. We want you to do geriatrics and radiology and peds, and because we really strive at Davis to turn out good, competent, thorough clinicians. One of the things that we're particularly proud of here at Davis is that we're amongst the highest in the nation for turning out primary care doctors. Right on just around 50% every year of our students go into primary care, which is phenomenal. Yeah. We have our specialists, we have our neurosurgeons and our dermatologists, but the numbers, because as you know, what we need in California is primary care doctors, and it's not just California. So we're quite proud of that. We put more effort into helping folks reach old age than into helping them enjoy it. This has been true of medicine, obviously. You've hopefully heard a lot over these last 4 weeks about how that's changing. Quality of life is very important. I'd like to think it's not just because those of us that are in charge are getting old too and understanding it, but it's a nice change. Ask your doctor if taking a pill to solve all your problems is right for you. This again underscores the fact that pills aren't the whole thing. But it also highlights the fact that drug companies have decided that they're not just going to advertise to us. They're going to take it past us directly to you. And they make outrageous claims sometimes. No, it's usually followed by the legal stuff with all the side effects that scares me to death. You think, why would you ever take that medication? But obviously the key to this is asking your doctor, and I know you all know that. Here at Davis, we actually have graduation competencies. So these are the overarching 6 things that determine what we expect every physician that graduates from Davis to be able to do. And I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail, but there's 6 of them. Patient care, using core clinical skills to deliver effective, evidence-based, and patient-centered care. Gone are the days where it's about the doctor and the schedule, and I'm going to induce this woman for labor because I've got a golf game at 2 p.m. At least I hope that's gone. Knowledge. Acquire critically appropriate, integrate, and apply knowledge of biomedical and clinical sciences. Again, clinical sciences, that includes mental health, psychosocial issues, a variety of living things. Interpersonal and communication skills. Employ skills that promote health efficacy, information exchange, and collaborative relationships with patients, their families, your colleagues, and your communities. Professionalism. Demonstrate a commitment to professionalism through altruism, humanism, cultural competence, accountability, and ethical legal understanding. So we're really striving now. It used to be that we focused only on clinical knowledge on an exam, and we're really sort of expanding that. My living will. Last night, my sister and I were sitting in the den, and I said to her, I never want to live in a vegetative state, dependent on some machine and fluids from a bottle to keep me alive. That would be no quality of life at all. If that ever happens, just pull the plug. So she got up, unplugged the computer, and threw out my wine. You have to be careful what you wish for. The last 2 graduation competencies we focus on are system-based practice, which is understand the healthcare system to deliver healthcare for individuals, better health for populations, and more affordable healthcare for everyone. Again, geriatrics, primary care, they're actually getting a lot more focus now. And the last one is lifelong learning, which you guys are the epitome of. Continuously improve professional competencies through the process of lifelong learning. As I said, if I could bottle what you all have here and make sure that our first-year class have it, I'd be very thrilled. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about seasons and take-home messages, sort of reinforcing what Dr. Saratan said. You know you're getting old when your favorite part of the newspaper is 50 years ago today. Obviously, living in the past, reminiscing, it can be a wonderful thing, but there's the here and now and there's the future. I'll never be an old man. To me, old age is always 15 years older than I am. It's funny how that happens as a physician. So actually, I have a funny story. When I was in medical school, you have to do these write-ups and you turn them in and they evaluate them. And the one thing that had a red mark around and around, it almost tore through the paper, is I actually wrote, I'm embarrassed to say this 39-year-old elderly man, blah, 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 blah. I was 24. I plead youth is ignorance sometimes. I got a complete earful from my attending. I amazingly still passed that. But thinking about seasons, obviously there are seasons to our lives. There's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of changes that happen, some for the good, some for the not so good. And it becomes about adapting and adjusting and having realistic expectations. And also finding the humor in life. Humor gets you through a lot of things. Over the years, I've learned a lot, usually from my patients, some from my dogs, a lot from my mother, kindergarten teacher. It's interesting, I find myself, when someone's doing something that seems unusually inconsiderate or rude, I think, did you not have a mother? Did you not go to nursery school? Did you not put in what you want there? So what are some of the little things that I think that are important? The first is deal directly with and learn from mistakes. We all make them. As Dr. Saratan was talking about cleaning out the drawer, so my husband's a physician as well. And we have big dogs. We have 2 St. Bernard puppies, brother and sister, and a Great Dane. And our St. Bernard was on antibiotics, and we had to cut it in half for that. And Bill, my husband, gave it to him and said, that pill was oddly shaped like the beta blocker you used to take. At which point I said, show it to me, and it was the beta blocker that we had just given our dog. Turns out there's a toxicology number you can call about your dog. Note to self, it costs $65 every time you call. I had the embarrassing time of actually explaining that I was a doctor, and it was another doctor that had done this, and it was quite embarrassing. And I still think this woman was lying, because she said, I can top that. She says, so I work here. 3 weeks ago, I gave my cat my thyroid medication. I think she was making that up just to make me feel good. But what ended up happening with that kind of mistake, our dog thought he was getting belly rubs for the next 2 hours because we were taking his pulse and listening to his heart rate. For 2 hours is what they had us doing on this. I will never, ever make that mistake again. You got to learn from mistakes. Build your trusted medical team. That's very important. I have a joke about that. An elderly couple was attending a church service. About halfway through the service, she leans over and says, I have a lot of gas and I just did a silent fart. What do you think I should do? His response, put a new battery in your hearing aid. When we talk about who your team is, obviously it is your doctor, it's your nurse, it's your social worker, it's your your physician, your psychiatrist. It's also your family. They're the people that actually are willing to tell us when we've done something stupid or look foolish and keep track of us. So it's important to make sure they're on your team. Learn how to learn. It's essential that you identify and develop strategies for finding good information, evaluating its validity, and discussing it with your doctors. There's all sorts of things out there on the web. You can try to find whatever you want to prove something you want to prove, and you will find it. Is it true? No. Is it good? No. You need to figure out how to do that. And then we have trusted sites. I tend to go to the other medical school sites or ours, the Hopkins site, the Mayo Medical Letter. There's places, and it's always a good sign when they list references, and the references are from other schools, not from people that you've never heard of. Take responsibility, which is what you all are doing here for learning how to learn. Take care of yourself. You are the primary person responsible for your health. I'm going to say that again, because we tend to forget that. Take care of yourself. You're the primary person responsible for that. There's so many things in life that we give to other people. If my yard's looking bad, it's the gardener's fault. If the food's bad, it's the store's fault. If I'm not healthy, is it my doctor's fault? No. Maybe, hopefully not. But you got to take responsibility for that, and you're doing that. It's hard sometimes to make a change. Actually, it's hard pretty much all the time to make change, but you just have to start. A colleague of mine from years ago at UCLA used to have this great saying of, I don't care where you start, just start. It's a very important thing, because too often changing things, it's like you imagine moving and there's 5,000 boxes in a room that you have to move. You don't start. If you just start by, I'm going to move this time, I'm going to take the smallest box and move that, momentum starts. The other important thing, though, is don't get so caught up in worrying about your health that you forget about the reason you're worrying about your health, which will live a long, healthy, happy, productive, connected life. Be proud of all your accomplishments, no matter how small, and build leisure into your life. Too many of us take our schedule, we put everything that we have to do, and where there are holes, we put in time to do fun things. That's completely backwards. What you really need to do is put the fun stuff on first and put the other stuff on, because if anything shouldn't fall off your list, I'm not saying important things should, but fun stuff, time with family, time for a movie. I mean, how often do you think, I really want to go see that movie, and next thing you know, it's a year and a half later and you're watching it on video because you didn't make the time to go see it. And by the way, they usually are a lot better on a big screen. So, nurture friendships. None of us would be where we are without friends, family, mentors, people that care about us. But they're like plants, they're like food. Friendships, relationships need care, they need feeding, they need attention. To keep the heart unwrinkled, to be hopeful, kindly, cheerful, reverent, that is to triumph over old age. My next one is learn to adapt to life's changes. Things will be different, but this is what I'm talking about the humor of things. You have to find the humor sometimes in the changes that you have to make. Probably the thing that most separates people that are successful and happy in life versus people that struggle a little bit more are people that can adapt. People that learn, this is what I can change, this is how I can change it. These are the things I can't change, and I'm going to stop banging my head up against the wall trying to change them. But here's the tricky part. How do you figure out which is which? It's hard, and that's why you build your team. That's why you have your team of clinicians and helpful people in medicine for that. That's why you have family and friends. You work on those things. As far as building leisure, I've already alluded to that. Make sure there's something in your life, hopefully multiple things in your life, that makes your soul sing. It may be going back to something you've done before and gave up. It may be picking up something new. My sister, who actually was the State Department, lives in Kenya. Her husband is very angry at me because I was talking with her about, you need to pick up a hobby, because she actually is in Kenya and got her posting started right 2 weeks before the mall thing happened over there. And she's the third in charge of the mission there, so I didn't hear from her for 3 weeks, except for the email that morning saying, you're going to hear about something horrible that happened, we're okay. So I was encouraging her to pick something up. Now, I don't take responsibility, but she apparently decided to pick up violin. Her husband is not happy with me right now. So I'll leave that up to you. But find something that actually motivates you and makes you happy. It is utterly false and cruelly arbitrary to put all the play and learning into childhood, all the work into middle age, and all the regrets into old age. Isn't that a phenomenal quote? One of my other favorite Margaret Mead quotes, though, is, progress happens one funeral at a time. The woman knew what she was talking about in a lot of ways. But, too often in the seasons of our lives, we figure you're only supposed to play when you're young. And you're supposed to be generative and earn money when you're in your middle ages, and then you have regrets. It's a foolish way to live. Establish priorities. Decide what's important to you and do it and stick with it. Find support in times of change. There's a lot of change, always. Things happen. So many things seem out of our control. You need help figuring which ones are and which ones are not, but it's just helpful to know that there's someone else in the boat with you. So find those people. Find those soulmates that can go through this with you. The next slide is. The idea is to die young as late as possible. Find the people that help with that. And lastly, live in a spirit of gratitude, something Dr. Sarah Ten mentioned. There's a lot to be thankful for. And all too often we focus on what the negative is. I don't know about you, but I could have been Mother Teresa for my 18 waking hours, and if there was 30 seconds where I was the biggest idiot on the planet that nobody else probably even noticed, that's the last thing I'm thinking about when I go to sleep that night, and it's the first thing I think about in the morning. Completely losing perspective on other things that I've done and other things I need to be thankful for. And there's a lot out there. If you go looking for bad stuff, there's a lot out there. It's a chaotic place, but there's a lot of wonderful things in there. And it's amazing, as physicians, we get to see people being at their best sometimes when things are at their worst. It's really a privilege as a physician to see that. So I mentioned a cartoon last year that was particularly helpful for me. I have another one that's very helpful for me to keep perspective. It shows someone, a young man, arriving at an airport, and it's blustery and cold and rainy and sleety, and he's having trouble hailing a cab. Well, he finally gets a cab, and he gets in, and he says, "What a horrible day." At which point the cab driver says, "Actually, it's a pretty good day." And the true cynic and the young man says, "That's because you're a cab driver, and everyone wants a cab." And he says, "No, it's because I'm from a country on the other side of the planet from here. All of my relatives are either imprisoned or in a refugee camp. I have a wife and a son that I've actually never met, and I'm working very hard to bring them here. Every day brings me closer to them coming here. So every day's," I get tearful at this. It takes a lot to make a psychiatrist tearful. "Every day brings me closer to being with my family." The last panel shows the young man arriving home, and he gets in, and there's his wife and 2 or 3 kids, and they're like, "Oh, what a horrible day," and he's hugging them and saying, "No, it's actually a really, really wonderful day." It's really helpful to think about that kind of stuff, I think. Just remember how lucky we are. So, I'm going to finish with 2 jokes, and then we go to the diplomas. So, the 2 jokes. The first one, I take full responsibility for. The second one, if it's racy, I take no responsibility for it. If you like it, I take responsibility for it. A man who's getting along in his years finds that he's unable to perform sexually. He goes to his doctor, who tries a few things, but nothing seems to work. Finally, as a last hope, the doctor refers him to a local medicine man. The medicine man says, "I can cure this." With that said, he throws a white powder into a flame, and there's a flash with billowing blue smoke. Then the medicine man says, "This is powerful healing, but you can only use it once a year. Only once a year. All you have to do is say 1, 2, 3, and it shall rise for as long as you want." The man then asks, "What happens when it's over and I don't want to continue?" The medicine man replies, "When your partner can take no more and you are both satisfied, all she has to say is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will go down. But be warned, this only works once a year, and it won't work again for another whole year." The old man rushes home, anxious to try out his new powers. That night, he showers, shaves, and smothers himself in aftershave. He slides into bed, cuddles up to his lovely wife, and says, 1, 2, 3, and it works, just as the medicine man had promised. His wife turns over and says, "What did you just say 1, 2, 3 for?" So my last joke is, Claude and Maud met at the Over 60 Singles Club meeting and discovered over time that they enjoyed each other's company a great deal. After several weeks of meeting for coffee, Claude worked up enough nerve to ask Maud out for dinner, and much to his delight, she accepted. They had a lovely evening. They dined at the most romantic restaurant in town. They ended up at his place for an after-dinner drink. Things continued along a natural course, and age being no inhibitor because they were in such good health, Maud soon joined Claude for a most enjoyable roll in the hay. As they were basking in the glow of the magic moments they'd shared, each was lost for a time in their own thoughts. Claude was thinking, "Oh, if I'd known she was still a virgin at this age, I'd have been much gentler." Maud was thinking, "Oh, if I'd known he could still perform at this age, I'd have taken off my tights." So, what's the take-home point of that story? There is a point. I'm going to bring this back to respectable. It's about not being bound by limited expectations. The idea is to have realistic expectations of yourself and realistic expectations of what is and is not possible with medicine these days. What's achievable? We're really shooting to hit the sweet spot between too little expectation and too much expectation. And that's a wonderful sweet spot to be in because you're empowered, you can do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And how do we do that? We do that by exploring, by learning and by building our understanding, which is exactly why you're all here. So, let me congratulate you on your dedication to your health, to the health of those you love, to your family members, to your community. I know that this mini medical school is just but one step in your journey to remaining healthy and a long, happy life, but I definitely salute you for that. I am really proud to be part of Davis, and most importantly, proud to be part of people's medical teams, people like you. So, good luck. Thank you. Congratulations.